Alrighty, we are live. Episode 4 of the Greto Project. So, we have a long interview today. One of my close friends. Very interesting. I think that you guys will see kind of a different side of me. It's a little bit deeper, talking a lot about self and professional growth and kind of how our lives have changed since we've known each other. So you'll get some really neat insight into, a different side of my life, and also get some insight into who I was like before all of this craziness in social media and this kind of version of me that you all know. But that's kind of a longer interview. I think that was like 40 minutes or so. So I'm just going to I had a number of segments. It's kind of just been crazy. I want to get this podcast out, so I'm gonna keep my segments and whatnot to the shorter side. I just have like a couple things I want to touch on. Then I'm gonna get the interview and let it be. But as always, this podcast is brought to you by Fair Game. It's a golf app built for real golfers. Whether you're tracking your rounds, connecting with friends, or running a tournament, Fair Game makes it easy. No spreadsheets, no headaches, just a clean, simple way to play, compete. If you love golf, you need to check it out. Download Fair Game for free and start playing your way. And then, of course, Goodroot, baby. Goodroot is flying off the shelves. Very exciting. Energy, endurance, focus, everything that you want out of a pre-workout you can get from strictly botanical-based ingredients like maca root, cordyceps, beetroot, etc. The first of its kind, the only of its kind. Beetroot, get it at shop beetroot or shop, Goodroot, get it at shopgoodroot.com. Okay. So what has been going on in my life? I've had kind of a crazy couple of weeks. Very much looking forward to just chilling out for a minute. It's my birthday next week. I don't really know what I'm going to do for my birthday. Historically, I haven't really been a big birthday advocate. Doesn't really do it for me. I kind of feel bad when birthdays come around, because if you do a dinner, like you want to just be around people you love, with your friends, whatever, and then they end up paying for you, and then it almost feels like you're inviting people to a dinner for free. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's always just felt kind of weird. Sometimes feel like maybe you're forcing people to do things, even though that's not the case. They very much want to be in your presence and celebrate your day of birth. But for me, I've just never given a shit about it. It means nothing to me, really. Aging is a privilege. It's not something that I think truly like needs to be like celebrated. I mean, there's people that are 80 years old and look like they're 50. There are people that are 50 that look like they're 80. So being afraid of aging, it's never really been a thing for me. Life is more so about how you feel, not really a number that's associated with your name. So that's kind of always how I felt when my birthday comes around. I mean, we'll do dinner, hang out with some friends, whatever. It is what it is. So that's what I got coming up. And yeah, my birthday is maybe because it was always in like a weird in between. I mean, like in college, it was always end of the year. So like half the people were either gone or half the people were still there. Or if I was home, only half the people were home, half the people were still in college. Now it's right before Memorial Day, so a ton of people are gone through the weekend. So it's just, whatever. A lot more to look forward to aside from a birthday. So one thing I just want to touch on before we get into the into the interview. So the other day I had like a very anxious day, which doesn't happen to me very often. And I just want to kind of highlight how I dealt with it and truly what this approach can do for your mental health if you're having one of these days. So I just woke up, maybe it was a bad night of sleep. I don't know what the fuck it was. And I just had so much anxiety, which again, rarely happens, but I was just like itchy in my skin. I was just overthinking everything. It was just a really bad day. And I ended up just dropping everything, went to the gym, Didn't have the best workout, but just like pushed myself to just like feel something physically, feel a burn, get everything out of my mind, excrete it through my body. Sat in the sauna for 20 minutes, did a cold plunge. Right after that, I was 80% better. So that's the first therapy, is physical activity. It's better than any medication out there on the market, no matter what anyone says. Anything that's going on with your mind, your body is a solution. And then from there, I mean, especially being in New York City, you're just surrounded by concrete, noises, horns, ambulance sirens, all just high frequency everything. Not as much sunlight, tall buildings, no grass. So I ended up, fortunately, went to Central Park and walked around barefoot a little bit. Was just away from all the noise, was finally around nature, trees, what felt like fresh air. And the combination of that and the gym cured me. Completely cured me. So the point I'm trying to make is next time you're having one of these days, fucking like take the rest of the day off. Don't just like force yourself through this afternoon where you're just mentally not in a good spot because you quote unquote have to for work. Because one, you're not going to solve anything. Then you're going to go to bed anxious. You're going to wake up anxious, and it's going to be this vicious cycle. Once you identify what's going on, bang, you have to tackle it head on. And if your boss thinks that you're sacrificing work or whatever, no, if anything, this is going to make you more productive, more efficient throughout the rest of the week because you're handling something right at the root cause of it. You're dealing with it right away on Monday, Tuesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday doesn't have to suffer. And if they don't like it, tell them to fuck off. They're not entitled to tell you what you do with your time off. If you're having one of these days, just take it to yourself, go to the gym, get a sweat in, sit in the sauna, cold plunge, be out in nature, disconnect from your phone, disconnect from the high frequencies of life, and watch what that does for you. But if you force yourself to be in a cave and kind of let the daunting nature of everyone's lives just continue to add more and more pressure on you every single day without doing something to try and address the anxiety, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So when you identify it right away, do something, take off, fuck work. Guess what? The best part about work is that it's going to be there every day for the rest of your life. It's not going anywhere. So take the afternoon off, do what you have to do to recalibrate, reset, and it will work 1,000 times out of 1,000. Trust. So, speaking of the sauna, last thing, kind of a funny story. I was in the sauna the other day, and I was alone. Listen, I understand that this is kind of gross, but it's just something that I do. I don't think it's that gross, but I do it. I pick my toenails. I usually don't do it in a public setting, but I was alone in the sauna, and I was just hanging out, and it was almost like I didn't even realize I was doing it. So I picked my toenails, and then I was just like putting them on like this towel that was next to me, making a little stockpile. And once someone came in, like I was done, obviously. I'm not an animal, all right? So then people started coming in. The seat, I was sitting on the upper level. The seat started filling up. And then I noticed the seat in front of me, the bottom seat to the front left of me, like people would walk up and then turn and go to the other side. Walk up, turn, go to the other side. Walk up, turn, go to the other side. No one was sitting there. And then I look a little closer, my big toenail, it was like one old big piece. Somehow, maybe I bumped it and it like flew off the towel right onto the middle of the bench. And that's why everyone was going up to the seat, looking at it, and being like, "It's fucking gnarly. I'm not touching that or sitting here." And they would turn away. But at that point, I can't like wipe that toenail off or like pick it up because then everyone would know it was mine. So I ended up having to just leave it when I left, and I guess no one just sat there all day. I took the rest of the pile with me, but it got to the point where people were standing up when there was like that open seat because no one wanted to touch the toenail. But what are you gonna do? I thought it was funny. It is what it is. It's a little that's a little thing I do. It's because I am pretty fidgety So maybe that's part of it. But anyway, just want to share that fun little story with you. So let's just get right into the interview. All right, welcome, Brant. So for you guys who don't know, Brant is a good buddy of mine. We met in college. He's the virtual guest on the Greto Project. How does that feel?
Feels good. Honored. Happy to be here.
It's a privilege.
It's such a privilege. Real quad father himself.
Yeah. So to give a little background, Brant, when I was rushing our fraternity at University of Miami in college, because he was there, I transferred there, so we were the same grade, but I got there my sophomore year, so he was already in the fraternity because he went there all 4 years, and he was the biggest recruit for me. So he's kind of the reason I joined the same fraternity as him. He sucked me in a number of different ways that maybe we could discuss on a different pod. But yeah, we've been boys ever since, and I think Brant has a very interesting perspective on life. And when I feel like, Brant, when I first met you, from sophomore year versus senior year, you were a completely different person. And then from when we graduated to now, again, I feel almost did like another 180 split, both in personal development and career development, obviously. So I think it'd be very valuable for the listeners to know, just given your upbringing, if you want to give a little bit of a background, what changed for you, what seems to be like every 4 years of where you kind of find more confidence and more passion and just like more belief in yourself to continue to find success as you've already done so far.
First of all, I appreciate it's very kind. And I think the same can be said for you. I think the Greto or the Austin that I knew at the beginning was similar to how we all were in college, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, where, we're enjoying our time. We're not sure where we're going in life. We're not sure what our plans are in the future, just sort of enjoying the moment. And I think we fell into the University of Miami and kind of getting lost there. And, it's a sort of a different culture than I think either of us had upbringing. But I think that, speaking to my upbringing, so I grew up in a small town, sports focused, all that kind of stuff. I went to private school and then prep school for high school. It was your classic sort of boarding school, Vineyard Vines, button down, Northeast. I'm from Boston. I should have added that. When I had wanted to go to Vanderbilt, I'd kind of been on a path where I have two older cousins who are just great, great guys. I'm the oldest of three. So they were sort of my guiding lights, older brothers in a way. And one had gone to my high school, and then the other one had gone to Vanderbilt. And that kind of had been instilled in me that, that's a school you want to aspire to. It had the balance of what I was looking for: sports, business school. I'd fallen in love with the idea of that fraternity culture as well. Didn't get in, and then got into Miami and a few other places. There was two people that I knew at Miami already, and spent time with them and went. I wasn't super excited, I would say. I think I still felt a little bit rejected and kind of had Vanderbilt had always been the plan. And then first semester Miami, it's different. Austin and I had different experiences. When you're a transfer sophomore, as Austin was, you can rush the fraternity in the first semester. Whereas for myself and the freshmen, you would rush second semester. So you spend the first semester, it's Miami. It's not a college town. So you need a fake ID. It's very expensive. So I had kind of trouble figuring out where I belonged at that point. Joined the fraternity, met a bunch of great friends. Wasn't sure I wanted to stay or not. On campus living wasn't for me. And then ended up moving out sophomore year with three of the older guys and one of our good buddies, Benny. And that was amazing. From that first week on, I was Miami all the way. It was the best school for me. But speaking on sort of sophomore to senior growth and then senior growth through adulthood, I think there's a lot of different pieces of myself that I had to work out. And I think when you get so caught up in the social aspect of things, the fraternities, the parties, how I look a certain way, how I talk a certain way, you lose focus on what really matters. And it was hard for me to sort of value my friendships and kind of grasp them that these are lifelong friendships at the time. because I had only had a few lifelong friends, and I think I saw it as, okay, these are people that I hang out with and we party on the weekends. But I didn't really let people in when I was sad or when I was down or when I had your typical issues that you have in college. You miss your parents, you miss your family, you're struggling with something. Try to cover it up, the same way we all do, drinking, partying, all that kind of stuff. I think when I graduated, I sort of enjoyed the routine of work and consistency and achieving towards a goal. Whereas college, I just felt like I had no goal, sort of aimless. I don't know. Did you feel the same way when you were in college, that it was just sort of the means to an end without really a path?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially given the environment we were in, it's really tough to kind of decipher like what's not only what's important in that current time, but it was almost difficult to like look into the future. It was like, yes,
Right.
Miami academically, great school. So it's like I'm a hard worker. I know I'm going to get a job when I graduate, but there was almost like still a little bit of kind of emptiness around the uncertainty of what would come next. Because, like you said, I think it is very different when you go to a school so far away where everyone is from different cities. I mean, like all the best friends that I made is you have Boston, Philly, Detroit, some in Miami, stayed in Miami. So even like when you do leave, like you build like such strong connections with people, and then like snap of a finger, it's like all right, the people that I would see every single day, I'm now seeing like once every 6 months. So I do think, like you said, it was tough to kind of find what you want to value in life and decide, what truly is important. And again, like it was so easy to get caught up, and I don't want to make it seem like we just fucked off for 4 years. Like it's definitely a work hard, play hard school. But yeah, I do agree. I do think that that's why when I graduated, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I think someone for me that always kind of struggled in school, I got into Miami, which was like a reach school for me. So I was still, working my ass off, but I always felt lost in the classroom, lost in the library. And then when I looked around, like people having these big internships, like knowing what they wanted to do, and I was like, I fucking hate school, and I don't know like what job is going to be next. That definitely made me feel a little bit lost. So I do think I kind of just like doubled down on our lifestyle, which I don't necessarily think anything is wrong with that because things worked out for me and worked out for you. But
Right.
yeah, I
When
also don't think I don't necessarily think you're supposed to know. Unless you're like going pre-med or like you're in pre-law and
Even then,
you're
they
on
end
that
up
path,
switching half the
sure.
time.
But yeah, I think it was very easy to kind of get lost and stay lost in a sense.
When do you think you found that direction? Obviously, there's still people listening to this podcast that are listening to you because they see you as this driven, motivated, confident person with an incredible amount of direction. But when did that flip switch for you? Do you remember specifically?
I think it would be probably a little bit more recent. I would say like through COVID, because I was always into fitness and working
Right.
out, and like I for most of my life have been a good looking guy, but I still really didn't have the confidence I do now. Um, I'd say until like a handful of years ago. I mean, I kind of just like tried to identify like my strengths and my weaknesses, and I think one of the biggest issues that people do is they'll kind of run away from their weaknesses, they'll run away from their insecurities, but at the end of the day, that's truly what identifies who you are as a person. I mean, like when I look back on my past, like there truly is nothing I would ever want to change, whether that's like the mistakes that I've made, the failures I've made, or even just the experiences I've had that caused insecurities. Those all contribute to my identity today, and I'm happy with who I am as a person. And I think it was really once I acknowledged like that aspect of my life, and like that's where the confidence came from, where it's like you're not supposed to be perfect, you're supposed to kind of embrace your faults and learn from your mistakes, and whatever you feel uncomfortable about, like just find out what you're good at in life, what your strengths are, what you enjoy learning and doing, and kind of double down on that. And I found that through the gym,
Yeah.
and I guess through like content creation, because that really resonated with a lot of people, the type of content I was making, aside from the thirst traps, of course, which also resonates with a lot of people. And it like truly, it made me feel accomplished in a way where, this is someone who, like, all throughout school, I was afraid to raise my hand in class
Right.
to ask a question, because I was always terrified that, like, everyone knew the answer but me, and everyone would think I was stupid. Like that, like my entire life, that was like one of my biggest fears, was to ask a question in class. And then I kind of ran into this field where, people are coming to me for advice for, questions they don't know the answer to that I did.
Right. A bunch of our friends coming to
Yeah, and then that rolled into people on the internet asking me, and then people coming and thanking me for all of the insight I've provided and how it's like helped enhance their life. And I found a lot of meaning through that, and definitely a lot more confidence, and then more confidence in myself, started believing in myself a little bit more, and then again going back to just like embracing who I am as a person. And like that's where you can kind of like break through of like the chains and the barriers, and just embrace who you are as a person. And like I've learned to like love myself for all of my weaknesses, and I still have some insecurities that I'm working through, and everyone will for the rest of their life. But I think it's identifying that those insecurities, or what you perceive as negative components of your life, those contribute to your identity. And if you learn to love yourself, like, you're going to love even those negative aspects of your life.
Right, and I think even the statement "loving yourself" said so easily is so impactful. And I don't think it's the love yourself in the way of I like the way I look, or I like the way that I carry myself, or this picture or that picture. It's who you are as a person. And I've seen that in recent years. And we had an incident where I hurt my foot many years ago, and Austin was there for me, and his father, who I'd never met, got me a surgeon in New York for an emergency foot surgery. And I think who you are, so much more. There's so much more depth to the way that you can portray yourself through pictures and through videos on social media, where the podcast is just a great platform to express yourself and to show people, hey, I can help you in more than just how to work out at the gym and what to eat. Here's my progress, and here's my path, and who I was at 18 and 21 and 25 and 28, 29. And I think your ability to do so comes across when you get to know you, and it's really remarkable, because I didn't know that there was this side of you, where I don't think a lot of people knew that there was this side of you off the first meeting we had. I can't remember the exact incident, but something I'm sure related to social life in college. I remember coming to you and feeling a side of you that I could be incredibly open and vulnerable with. And it's very surprising when you have someone that has some of your characteristics and tough the way that you are, but can be so open to be supportive of friends across the way. And I think that side of you came out within the last year or two, what I've seen, to come to me. I think you've always been great with advice. You've always been, I could come to you no matter what about anything. But maybe over time, and I don't know if it has something to do with that confidence and finding that part of yourself, or that you felt that, hey, I can open up to friends and show weakness. Or maybe that's just age. As we get older, as we progress, as we experience life, the frailties and the fact that, you never know what's around the corner. You realize that, hey, this person's been my friend for what now? 10 years, 11, maybe 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
No matter what I say or what I do, they're going to have my back. And that's such an incredible feeling to have, that when you're down in the dumps, or you're feeling sad or something along those lines, to have just a handful of people that you can call on and need no matter what, is such an incredible feeling that I need to be more cognizantly grateful, aware of. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I do think you are very, very aware of it, more than you might think. And I don't think you give yourself enough credit, because every time we do have those kind of conversations, I can hear and feel the gratitude, like in your
Yeah.
voice and energetically as well. And listen, I think it's definitely a product of life experiences and maybe maturity. But listen, I'm forever going to be immature in a sense. There's a lot of shit
Likewise. Oh,
that,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of shit that I'm gonna think is funny forever that a grown man probably shouldn't think is funny. But I think that laughter is
That's
the
what makes you human, and that's what makes us
yeah.
us, and that's what makes you be able to connect in your job and in the world that we're in. You can connect with the variance of people. You can connect with the serious people, the funny people, all those different aspects, and that's part of what makes us us. The Family Guy, South Park generation that we are.
Yeah, and I also think that it's having a more, I don't want to say realistic, but I think growing up, there's this, when you're a child, and listen, we both came from great backgrounds. I know for myself, and same for you, couldn't have asked for anything more from our parents. Like we are extremely blessed in the life that they were able to provide for us, and I will be eternally grateful. And all I can hope for is that I can provide my kids the same thing someday. Um, and I think growing up, like there's always this sense of kind of innocence and like unknown of what the world truly is, and even through college. I mean, going back to Miami, the bubble in which we lived in for 4 years, like yeah, we were away from home, and like that's where you get a lot of life experiences, but that wasn't real life down there at
Yeah,
all. So it was like, yeah, like you're getting these life experiences to help you mature and grow, but it also gave you this distorted reality of what life will be like, and like what these expectations are. And I think it was, this expectation that if you have a good degree, you automatically are going to make a shit ton of money, and then you can just like get the job, and everything falls into place. And like that's not the case at all. There's a lot of hard work and personal development and strategic planning, or both around like your financial life as well as your personal life and the career moves that you make. And it's a game. Life is a game, and you need to learn to
right.
gamify it. And what you want to do is you want to win the game, right? And
Yeah,
there's a lot of tactics and strategy, and you have to learn what this world, the society, economy has to offer, and how you want to position the cards that you're dealt in order to win. And that's just going to come with more and more experience. And I think that's why I'm like kind of able to give maybe better advice now, just because of personal experiences. I mean, a conversation we had when you were dealing with some, getting over a breakup. Um, the advice I gave you, I wasn't able to give you that until I went through a breakup
right.
myself, and I didn't really have many serious relationships in my life. And then, that the one that I did have, that ended about a year ago, made a shit ton of mistakes, did so many things wrong, and I was just like so raw to that situation, and it sucked in the beginning, but at the same time, like I truly, like I needed that for my own like personal development and
Absolutely.
self growth. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to give you the advice that I did, and like kind of help talk you through that. I would have given you advice, but who the fuck knows
Right.
what that would have been, because I wasn't in that situation until I was. So I do think it's a big, um, you know, big life experience thing. And I'm gonna quote the same thing I quoted to you on that call, or on that call I had with you, is there's a huge difference between you know realizing, or just like identifying that you made a mistake, and truly growing from it. Like those are two
Absolutely.
completely different things. And I think a lot of people will look back on a mistake they made, or just some part of their life where something went wrong, and they identify it and they think like, okay, perfect, like I saw what went wrong. But there's so much more to
Right.
that. It's kind of taking the time to like let that sink in on a deeper level, understand why those decisions were made or why certain decisions weren't made, and what impacted that, and kind of what you need to do to make a change moving forward. Like that's where the growth comes from, not just kind of identifying a fault.
So how do you find for yourself that you're able to retain the lessons, retain that information, reflect? Is it through journaling? Is it through walks? Is it through speaking to friends? Is it through just general self-reflection? Because I think that's a part of society that we go through experiences, but if you don't journal them, you don't reflect on them, like you said, or you don't have conversations so they stick with you, you really don't learn. And you don't really know, hey, 2 weeks ago, this is a Chris Williamson quote, like, you were upset 2 weeks ago and you didn't journal about it, you have no idea why you're upset. But if you did, you were upset 2 weeks ago, and you look back at your journal, or you look back on a voice note you made or something along those lines, say, I was upset about this. And 2 weeks later, that situation ended up working itself out. I was upset about something at work, the deal didn't close. Well, actually, it came back to you, and the deal did come back to you, and all that worrying was for nothing. Or that argument you had with your mom, your dad, your partner, your brother, your sister, whoever, in that moment you were so upset, but 24 hours later, 48 hours later, you were able to reflect, and you were able to say, hey, I never thought of it from their perspective. I was very upset in this moment, but now I've grown because I can see that. And that's sort of how I am with adversity. And it's something that I just have to process. Part of me is I have these conversations, and then something happens, and you're in that moment, you're like, well, this is about this, or this is about that. And you make some sort of statement in your mind that it's absolute. And it takes me 24 to 48 hours to process sometimes someone else's perspective, and how someone sort of like me that is, I'm blanking on the word, but the word is impulsive. Mm-hmm. Someone that's sort of impulsive in speech, where you have something in your head and you just say it, and then you think, well, why did I say that? Or how couldn't I see from their perspective how someone else must have felt? And then when you journal on it and you reflect, you can grow for the next time. You know, there's a funny TikTok trend going around, and it's a kid that is saying the worst things he said to a girl accidentally that didn't mean to offend them that really offended them. And I was thinking about that. I've done that to so many people where I make a comment and I don't necessarily mean it. It just comes out. In my mind, it's like not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to the king of that.
Yeah, I know that one. But I think that people in general that are younger listeners, and I can't speak to the female perspective as much of this, but the younger generation of listeners that are listening to this podcast now and follow you and see you as someone that they look up to, as they should, can take away that journaling and meditating and talking to friends and reflecting is not weak, it's strong. Mm-hmm. And it's the only way you really can grow, because over time you can push down sort of feelings and ways you feel about yourself, and maybe you're the lucky one that can get away with that. But in my opinion, it's all going to come to the surface at some point. And I think that when you go through these adverse situations, they say that people with anxiety, which I've struggled with, I think you'll be touching on it later on this episode yourself, is that those people are the ones that grow the most from adverse situations, because they put the most time and effort into self-reflection and growth and thoughts and self-awareness. And that's a huge part of where I'm at and where I continue to be, is how can I grow myself? And then what am I growing towards? Like, I find so much value, and I imagine you feel the same in those conversations where you come to me about the breakup or the work situation or something like that. I personally feel valued by someone opening up to me, and I want to be, like you said, you had great advice for me and you were there for me the whole time. And I think that you have to yourself reflect on what you're going through in your life so that you can be there to support the people that care about you most. And I think your experiences, both good and bad, have led you to be that person for myself and many other people across social, across work, across personal matters, workouts, everything.
Yeah. And it's tougher today than ever. I mean, it's just such a high frequency world that we live in, where we're just consuming an unlimited amount of information and data every single day from different angles, from our work life, and then the stresses and pressures of social media and status and money. It's just there's so many different avenues that your mind kind of has to defend itself from different pressures of life, and that's probably why it is so much harder for people today. And I am happy to see that there's definitely a much stronger movement around being able to talk about it and journal and like have these kind of discussions, um, because there's always someone kind of going through the same shit as you, whether it's for better or worse. That's just what it is, and it's interesting. You asked me before, kind of like how I learned from those
Yeah.
situations. I've never been like too much of a journaler, and I've also been or journalist rather. I've always kind of had a hard time like talking about my problems. Not I don't have many, but they do come up every now and then.
Of
Um,
course.
I don't know because I've always felt that I was the person that's supposed to be giving the advice, and I do find therapy in that in itself, because
Yep.
that is a way for me to then kind of talk about the experience that I had, and I've noticed that with you for someone who does also take a lot of pride in needing to talk through situations. You know, whenever you call me, um, I will. Looking back on it, I tend to reflect quite a bit on my own
Yeah.
experiences, and I feel like I'm realizing now maybe that's kind of like my own way of coping with things, but at the same time, you know, making an effort to help you. But I make a very firm point to have that self reflection, and I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, and the reason I have so much fun doing it is because I it does feel like a form of journaling and kind of just like brain dumping, even though half the shit I talk about, like one of my segments is called randomness, I say a bunch of random shit, but it just like feels good to just like brain dump and say stupid and funny shit. So it definitely does feel good, but I also I think a pivotal point in my life was when I became an extraordinarily optimistic person, um, and like I truly live my life like glass half full. Like no matter what happens in my life, like it's either half full or half empty, and it's really just perspective. And I do think, kind of bring back to the earlier discussions, that that is a part of kind of where the confidence and the self love came into
Right.
play, is the gratitude and the optimism that I have for life like truly does make me feel full. I mean, of course, like all the love that I have in my life from like my parents, my brother, my friends, you know, that also obviously is a huge aspect to why I feel so full and grateful for the things that I have. But um, yeah, I think it's that self reflection and just like taking some time for yourself, and just the same way, if you're a sports analyst, you're kind of evaluating a team, or you're for work, you're building a strategy for certain projects. It's the same thing for yourself. Like you are a lifelong project that you have to continue to try and grow and make better, and that comes with that self reflection and identifying what you might need to work on, and seeing what not necessarily changes in life, because that could sound
Right.
more drastic and more daunting than it is. Like I have to change my life, but it's more just, you know, certain things that you need to incorporate or do a little bit better. I mean, that 1% every single day sounds so cliche, but it's the
Kaizen. Yeah.
power of compounding, and you know, you make these small incremental changes that compound over life, or I'm sorry, over time, and it truly does make such a big difference.
So, what are your recommendations to the younger listener? I don't know, anywhere 15 to 25, 26, that doesn't have that same love surrounding them that we're so fortunate to have, or the financial means to go to the gym, or the confidence to post the pictures online for something they really care about. How do you talk to them and recommend to them, hey, see life as good? You know, see the glass half full. What are you saying to that sort of listener right now?
That's a really good question. The first thing I would say is be patient. Um,
Yep.
you know, like 15 is so young.
So yeah.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, still all so young. I mean, like, dude, there aren't. And listen, I want to preface this by saying there's so much shit I don't have figured out in my life. You know, like, the last thing I want to come across is like that I got everything figured out, because
No, you don't come
God
across
knows
that way.
I do not.
No.
But it did take me a while to kind of recognize what I can contribute to the world, and there's no time limit on, you know, when you're supposed to figure that out. I mean, like, some
Right.
people figure it out super young. I figured it out, like, or felt. I'm still trying to figure out what I
Right.
felt.
In 10 years, we'll say, well, look, we didn't know
Yeah.
anything. 20 years, we'll say, yeah.
So what you have to do is you just have to be open to like what the world has to offer, because if you're closed off to different opportunities, and you kind of have this like kind of single view, and you have the blinders on, and like what the world has to offer and like what you're supposed to do, like you might not kind of find your meaning, because when you're that young you just don't know like what this world has to offer. And even every year you're going to go through more and more different life experiences, whether that's just through school, through socializing with people, through travel. So I guess the two things is just you got to be patient and just be extremely open. And it's like
Right.
it's easier said than done, because like no one wants to wait. But I think it's the first podcast that my closing quote was, if you knew it would take 30 failures to achieve your goals, like, you have this goal in life that will give you everything you want in the world. If you had 30 failures, and then after that 30th failure, you would succeed, like, how fast would you be like sprinting to try and fail?
Right.
Right? But it's
Right.
more so the uncertainty of like how many failures is it going to take, the kind of just being afraid to fail in the first place, of what that'll bring, what kind of position it'll put you in it. But that's just going to come with being patient and open, and just like embracing the opportunities other people might bring, and the conversations people have, and just continuing to grow, and educate yourself on whatever you think might be interesting. I mean, it's like my my mom used to always, like, she was super into the arts, and that just never was of interest at all to me. And like, she always wanted me to go to different museums, and I was always very closed off to it. And it's funny because like now I am starting to get into art a little bit more, and it's
Yeah.
becoming more interesting. But as I said before, it was like I was kind of afraid to like ask certain questions, and like looking back on it, it was like maybe I would have learned more, and maybe those would have opened up different opportunities and put me in different positions earlier. And I think it's because I wasn't open to failing at that age. You know, I wasn't open to being wrong in front of other people. And again, it's easier for me to just say, just to do it. But I think it eventually does come with maturity, and kind of just like being tired of waiting, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, I guess the two main things is just be open to what the world has to offer, and just be patient. Like, you're in a good spot, like
Right.
you are. Like, everyone has their own path, and like that is the beauty of life, is like finding that path too.
And where you belong, I think there's so many people that look around the world and say, oh man, that person has more friends than me, or that person has a better job, or that person seems so happy all the time, because they see their social media or they see them out. But they don't see them at the dark times when they're sad, or they're frustrated, or they're angry, or they're anxious. And more likely than not, again, I'm not an expert on anything, but more likely than not, the person that you're talking to is also going through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And by opening up to them, you're showing them, hey, I'm willing to be vulnerable with you. In return, you could be vulnerable with me, and we both can grow together in that experience. And that's something that I couldn't really get to. Again, I've mentioned him before, but I have a close friend, Benny. He was my roommate. We lived in the same, bedroom, and the same for 3 straight years. And he was the first person that I could really truthfully open up to and let in to the worst of how I was feeling. And I remember sort of experiencing it in listening to him and having this conversation with no judgment from him. And I have another buddy, Tim, who's the same way. He can listen wholeheartedly without judgment. And if you can do that for others, they'll do that for you. And you can learn from those experiences. So if you're a younger kid right now or whoever, and you're going through something, have the confidence to open up to a friend and say, hey, man, I'm not feeling great. Or, hey, man, I'm anxious. Or, hey, man, I'm sad. Or, hey, man, I just need someone to go for a walk with. Would you be around? And I'll tell you, if they say no, or they judge you, or they hold it against you in the future, then that's not someone that you want to be involved in your life anyway. Yep. And I think there is this fear that if I open up, I'll be seen as weak. Or if I open up and show a certain side of me, it'll be used against me in the future. And that's a hard thing for, and again, I can't speak to women, but for men, the younger generation and my generation of men, I assume the older ones as well, go through, hey, I don't want to be weak, but man, work has been kicking my ass. Or, I'm sad about something's going on with my family, man. Somebody's sick. And you can go to therapy, which is great. And I think I'm a huge advocate of therapy, but also opening up to friends and opening up to the friends that listen and can be there for you and support you, but also be that sort of friend. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest takeaway from all this stuff is be the person that you want a friend to be. And that's how you really can begin to love yourself. Like when I can be the person that is generous and can be depended on and can be called on in a tough situation, I say, well, if this person's trusting me with the deepest, darkest times they're in, I must be doing something all right. I'm obviously not doing everything all right, but I must be doing something pretty okay. And I think, like you said, there is a plethora of information out there, and it can feel aimless and endless, but finding a podcast you resonate with, or finding a person a YouTuber that you resonate with. And I think there's a benefit to the funny stuff, like we're a big Barstool, Part of My Take, Dave Portnoy, I love Part of the Interruption, the sports podcast, the stuff that can free your mind from everything and just let you drive and let loose. But then there's also the beneficial ones. Like I've been really into Chris Williamson, who I mentioned earlier. He has on these excellent people in his interview style and the way that he opens himself to vulnerability and the intellectual conversations that he has with people that you could never be in the same room with, but you feel like you're there and you can take away from that. You can grow in that way as well. And you can see someone, hey, someone was a PhD doctor of Harvard, the #1 nervous system doctor in the country he had on a few months ago. And she was talking about at age 30, 35, 40, she was still struggling with calming her nervous system in times of anxiety. Well, if someone's like that can calm their anxious system and learn a PhD from Harvard and you understand the science of it, then there's hope for us all.
Yeah. And again, like one of the most important things that you mentioned is like if you go to someone and they're judging you, like that's not the type of person you want to be around.
That's a blessing.
It's the same thing where like there's no one that will judge you. Someone who's like successful in life, who's like doing better, quote unquote, better than you, achieving their goals, whatever. Like that type of person will never look down upon you for trying and making an effort
100%.
To try and build off yourself. It's always the people that are below you that have like this kind of animosity or jealousy, whatever it may be. Anyone who's actually like been through it and succeeded, like the true role models, they will never in a million years look at someone that's just trying. Like, can you imagine, like, there's so many people out there that like look at other people, they're kind of angry at the world, angry at their own life, and they look down upon people that are just truly trying. Like right. Someone's trying in life, trying to succeed, trying to build a business, trying to better themselves, and people are judging for it. It's like fuck them. Like who gives a fuck what those people think? Like those are the last people you want in your life, and if that's someone you want and don't want in your life, why in a million years would you even consider letting their thoughts or their perspective have any impact on your life? It's just like cut them out. Like let them figure out their own fucking problems. Like you're working on yourself, you're growing. Like those aren't the people you need to be involved in. So everyone who you think is judging you, for the most part, they're not. And if the people are judging you, they're below you. Because if they were at your level or above you, they would be supporting you and they would want you to succeed because they already been through that part of the path that you're on and they know how difficult it is and they want to see you get through it because they went through the same struggle.
Right, and I think those people that are looking down to you or judging or whatever you are, they have their own struggles that are going on.
Totally.
I think
it doesn't stop.
Right. I think it's very easy to get caught up in, oh, this person's a jerk or this person's that. it can be more difficult to see it from their side of perspective, to say, hey, I hear what you're saying. I understand. I'm not going to hold on to attach to your rejection or to your thoughts. But sometimes those people, they haven't had the support that we have. They haven't had the support of the benefit of learning. So if you can be there for someone that's going through a tough time, or even if they can be kind of a jerk, you support them. Say, hey, at a certain point, you get worn down of it. You can't do it. But I do think that it's very easy to forget that the guy that bumps into you on the street, Times Square, has his own journey and his own issues that he's working through. And seeing the humane society and the human part of each individual will allow you to get to that point that you were talking about earlier, where you are an optimist and you do see the glass half full, and you do see, well, man, this guy's so angry. He's got this going wrong. He's got that going wrong. Well, my problem is my roommate forgot to do the dishes, which my roommate's never. First of all, Andrew, if you're listening, Andrew is the best. He's never forgotten to do the dishes once. So that's not a shot. Yeah. That's just an example. But yeah, it puts stuff in perspective. Even volunteering, like my dad had always been a huge advocate of philanthropy. When we were kids, he actually started the Strikeout ALS Foundation with the Red Sox, partnership with CBS.
Amazing.
He sat on the board of directors with 7 Nobel Prize winning doctors. Over the course of his time raising money as the president, he raised over $30 million.
Wow.
And I didn't know these numbers till many, many years later, because that's not what he did it for. He didn't come back to brag about the numbers or how he did. He did it because his mother died of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. He thought of an opportunity, saw it, and took the step forward. And I think when you do philanthropic work and you help others and you go to the children's hospital or go to the food bank or drop off toys for underprivileged kids, it really puts things in perspective. And I've always felt that when you volunteer for Special Olympic sports, and right now I'm working with a group and I'm trying to get on the board, and hopefully the goal will be coming to, is helping those kids that are come from lower income households learn financial literacy. Because in my perspective, that's the biggest difference between the haves and the have-nots. Not to go down a super long path, but I never had to worry about someone teaching me about a checking account or a savings account, because my parents did. Sure. And I never had to worry about the stock market or understanding investments, because I went to business school and I did this and I had the people around me. But there's so many people out there that just don't have the opportunity or the means or the resources, I should say, to learn. That if you're someone that's sort of struggling to find your purpose or where you belong, other than reaching out to your friends and connecting and putting yourself out there, I think volunteering to help is the best thing you can do. And there's not going to be, hey, if you're not comfortable doing this, you're not comfortable doing that, you're going to have to try a few charities to figure it out. But when you do it, and I can speak from experience, when you put your head on the pillow at night, you can look up or you can shut your eyes and say, I did something today. Mm-hmm. I helped others, and it puts in perspective all the things you're going through in life. When you're, a single mother of 3 and you can't afford to give yourself and your kids lunch, so your kids eat and you can't eat, the day-to-day problems that someone like myself or someone like yourself that are far more fortunate can really put in perspective. And you realize how lucky we are. And I do think if everyone spent a certain amount of time giving back in any way they see, I think monetary donations are great if you have the means, but your time and your effort and your presence is really the most impactful thing from my experience. Yeah. So that's, find a way to give back. Even,
I think that's
yeah.
No, I was saying that. I think that's kind of something I didn't know about you either. I knew that growing up you had some philanthropic background, but I didn't know your current endeavors, and I think that's a beautiful show of your character. So, and I think it's like you said, it's very powerful to have those experiences to give you another perspective on the world. And with
that's
that,
another people, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry.
I was going to say, you can meet people, say you're that kid that's finding or having trouble connecting to the right people. The people you surround yourself with at these events, at the volunteer, those are the kind people of the world. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that you'll get to know and you'll grow with, and that's really an opportunity to meet new people.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're going to learn from the people you're trying to help as well as the people around you who have a history of helping people. Thank you so much for joining, Brant. I think it's extremely important for people to see different perspectives on different life experiences and how certain emotions can be hidden and dealt with, and the importance of just perspective on life and seeing different perspectives from different people. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing all of that. But to put a bow on it, give us a quote that you saw or heard or read recently that really resonated with you.
I'm rereading it off my computer because I don't want to get it wrong, but it's a Winston Churchill quote. It says, "Success is not final failure. Fuck. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts." We'll do that one more time.
No, that's it. Hey, listen, you just failed reading that quote, and we're persevering. That's the power in that quote itself.
Right. If I'm going to live up to it, I better, if I'm going to quote, I better live by it. But
exactly.
Otherwise, we did well. But I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. And I also want to acknowledge how much you've put yourself out there and done it for yourself and done it for others, and very proud of the growth that you've shown as well. So goes without saying, but love you very much, and very thankful for this opportunity and thankful for your friendship.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Likewise, brother.
All right, talk to you soon.
Thanks, dude.
Bye.
Alrighty, and that pretty much concludes the show. The intro and everything and the interview itself was long enough, so we're going to cut it here. And really how we close every podcast is with a Stoic quote. This one is not a Stoic quote. This is from Jimmy Carr, I think his name is. He is a comedian. I saw this quote the other day and it really resonated with me. Our lives have never been objectively better and subjectively worse because of the nature of humanity as our desires are mimetic. So, our lives have never been objectively better and subjectively worse. That's pretty powerful. You know, what he goes on to talk about is everyone always has this like overwhelmingness of whether it be unfairness or this victim mentality. Life is so hard when objectively, you know, kings hundreds of years ago do not live as well as the middle class does today. I mean, what we have at our fingertips makes our lives objectively better. Even the simple, tiniest pleasures in life that we take completely for granted, like taking a hot shower every morning. I take cold showers, no big deal. But taking a hot shower, you know, 100 years ago, that wasn't a thing. People didn't take hot showers, but that's just something that we're just so used to, and that's a little pleasure in life that was you would hope to be so fortunate to have had the opportunity to do so 100 years ago. Just the accessibility that we have and the life experiences that people are able to experience on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. I mean, our lives in this current time, 2025, this is the best time to be alive, without a doubt. But yet, so many people adopt this mindset that this life is so brutal and it's so tough. And listen, there's a lot of crazy shit that goes on around the world. I'm not denying that. And I've been so fortunate in life for what I've been given. And I do want to address that like I've had a very fortunate life, and I will continue to do everything I can to continue to have a fortunate life for my future family and my future. But I do truly believe that so many people would be happier if they would just stop chasing the greener grass. I mean, you have so many people that even have everything at their fingertips that are going to find things to complain about. I mean, it does come down to social media and the pressures that everyone else's life is better than yours. And it's, as someone who lives in the social media realm, I understand that. Trust me, I've had some patches in my life where I adopted that, like, this isn't fair mindset, and it consumes you and it brings you down. And I've had a crazy, crazy perspective shift that truly makes me so grateful for just everything that's in my life, even the things that I'm not proud of, even the things that have been challenging for me. And whatever it is, it's gratitude, it's opportunity. I think he goes on to say how happy you are is quality of life minus envy. I mean, think about that. Quality of life minus envy. That's going to determine how happy you are. I remember last closing remark, this was probably like maybe 10 years ago now. I was caddying, and one of the caddies, he's probably like 50 years old, this Jamaican dude, he's an immigrant, doesn't have a lot of money, just caddies full time. He makes his money from, spring through the middle of the fall, and then he lives on that through the rest of the year. Not a lot of money. And I forget what exactly it was we were talking about. And this is 10 years ago at this point. I'm 18 or 19 years old. And another older guy who's a caddy was complaining about something. And he looks at him, he's like, dude, like, what are you complaining about? What are you stressing? We all got bills. Is that stress going to pay those bills for you? We all got family problems. Is that stress going to fix those family problems? It's like, no. So you just got to live your life. And this is a guy that really didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a good living situation. His family was all spread out, had family back in Jamaica. He had a fucked up family situation here. But he would just live every day and just be grateful for the greenness around him on the golf course, the relationships he did have, the money he was making, even though it wasn't that much. Everything that was presented to him, he was so grateful for. And you could feel that energy and just like that happiness through him. Because he wasn't an envious person. So take that with you through the week, through the weekend. Be grateful for what you got in life, because life is good. There's no better time to be alive than right now. All of the opportunities that you have in front of you, the opportunities that are going to continue to be presented to you. Remember, your life will not change if you say no to opportunities. So be out there, be different, make yourself uncomfortable. If you're stressing, don't stress. And if you're anxious, workout, sauna, cold plunge, nature. That's the solution. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. And until next time.